Okay, so yesterday was probably, well, it was, yeah, probably one of the deepest, darkest days of the purge for me from a mental and emotional space. Um, it was like very volatile, my reactions and like what I was ultimately purging, which ultimately I've been building up to over the last several days, and it all stems around like me choosing what to pursue or to, trying to figure out what I needed to do in any given moment, especially when it comes to like work and like my finances and all those fun things. So, um, yeah, it was dark. The most I honestly couldn't tell you the last time that I like cried and let out that way, like I was um vocally crying, tears just streaming down my face for probably like what was maybe 20, almost 20, maybe 30 minutes. I don't know. I wasn't watching the clock, but you know, I even like beat my hands on my legs at certain points and on the bed, I mean, and I screamed into a pillow, like, and I remember like having the thought while this was all happening, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm acting like a child throwing a tantrum, and I did. I felt really silly and honestly a little like embarrassed because I know that I am a very calm, level headed, grounded individual, not just for my age, just in general. But yeah, I remember having that thought of like, oh my God, I feel like I'm just acting like a child right now. Like, grow up, Katie. Like those were kind of like the thoughts that were running through my head, which didn't help the situation. But what I will say is it is so wild how every little thought, every little experience um, has meaning. And that was revealed to me today, this morning. Um, I will say, as I've always known, and as most of you might know, crying is a purge. It's a release. And it was actually like, it was something I recognized when I was a little kid. And that's why I used to just let it all out whenever I was feeling like sadness or fear or whatever, because I would physically notice a difference in my energy. Like I felt lighter again. Um, but I wasn't really thinking about this exactly in that way this time because this was like deep and dark. And again, I won't go into the details of everything that was running through my mind, but it was not pretty and it was scary. But I will say that I ultimately ended up like, crying and releasing so much that, you know, by the time it was done, by the time I was done with it at the end of the day, I did feel a sense of calm, but I didn't feel a sense of confidence. So fast forward to today, I woke up and realized like, okay, those thoughts that like have not left me alone for like a week plus have quieted down. I was feeling like way more just calm in my body. Um, like a shot of morphine or something like that, where I was just like, okay, I'm just going to go through the day and see what happens and what comes up and just do my best to just take things slow and to just allow. But yeah, okay, so I'm up for the day and I'm kind of doing my little thing, watching some videos, realizing things are starting to feel like better. I'm not feeling so critical and judgmental, which I was able to register that was like due to the release from yesterday. Now, what I will say is up to this point, I didn't necessarily feel like I'd solved anything or I'd figured anything out. It was just a matter of like, I at least got that stuff out, you know? And ultimately I just was like, look, okay, I'm just going to allow what needs to come through. And I got this message that like, meditate, just like, and I don't meditate like the normal person, like, or well, how like a lot of people think meditation goes. It's, for me it was just about like allowing myself to just be and like let what needed to come through, which led me to ultimately yesterday's tantrum. And It's wild. Like I'd heard on a tarot reading, like one of the first readings that popped up for me today, something about like, you're releasing all this stuff from your ancestors, which is stuff I'd been hearing like for a while, like it wasn't anything like new, but you know, it hit me differently this time because I think there was a lot more cleared out of my mind space. And, I started thinking about that. I was like, okay, so, what was I like, what was going on? What was like bothering me so much, um, and how is that connected to like my ancestors, And ultimately, what I came to realize is that what happened yesterday, that reaction where I felt like a kid throwing a tantrum, it was truly actually my inner child um, throwing a tantrum. But what I realized is it was completely valid to do so because when I was little, um, I knew I was meant for something big. I knew I was meant to, like, I had a big mission. Like, there was a mission that I had to fulfill. Like, those were words that I knew, like, that I received as a child. But again, as a child, you don't really understand what that means. And I also knew I had a lot of dreams and passions and that I was really creative and I wanted to explore those things as a little kid. And I was kind of reflecting on all that. I went back and realized that every single attempt that I made as a little kid to um, pursue one of my passions, I just got told no. What was one of the first things? It was like, oh gosh. Well, one thing is, I wanted to, I wanted to sing, okay? And I wanted to, I did like choir at like the schools that I was at, but it was never anything major, very small, minor productions. So I wanted to pursue something more, like singing lessons or like maybe joining more of like a public kind of singing ensemble somewhere around my hometown. And I remember whenever something would come up that I kind of wanted to do, I'd ask my parents and I would be told no. So I ultimately just settled for the school choirs, which again, just never, it was good, but it wasn't what I wanted. I settled. Another example was like when I was younger, my mom signed me and my siblings up for my sister and I for piano lessons and my brother for guitar lessons. And at first I was really excited because I knew, again, I just wanted to I wanted to learn how to play music and maybe even write music. And I got into the piano, into the lesson with the piano teacher, and I ultimately realized I don't want to take piano, at least not now. I want to do guitar like my brother got to do. And I asked my mom if I could switch over to guitar, and I was told no. No explanation, just no. And so that didn't last very long, because it wasn't what I wanted. And if it's not what I want, I don't have the drive and the passion to continue it. The woman ended up getting pregnant anyway, so it all kind of worked out. But ultimately, the main message here is that I was told no and I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I wanted to dance when I was younger, okay? And I wanted, my sister got to dance when she was little. My cousins, several of my cousins all got to do their own dancing, were dancing through high school, and I wanted to take dance classes. And by the time I came around, I'm the youngest out of 3. By the time I came around, I asked my mom if I could take dance classes, and she said no. Again, no real explanation, just no. So I, ended up having to settle for something else that I was like, well, I guess this is good enough. But I ended up taking baton twirling for a little bit, because it was the closest thing that I could get to dancing. And it was kind of school sanctioned, school associated, and so again, having to settle for something that I didn't really want. And as the trend in the story goes, I didn't end up pursuing it for that long. I did for a little while, but like still, it wasn't a passion. And then the last thing was like acting. I wanted to be a triple threat back then with all that kind of stuff. But the last thing was acting, and like none of the schools that I went to had like any kind of real drama program. It was, it's not. It was just a way of the times when you go to like small schools. Like they're more focused, especially in the middle of the country and in the Midwest. They're more focused on sports, and I played a lot of sports. That's, like I said, I had to fill my time with, because I had a lot of energy to give. But so there weren't really any opportunities for me to act at school, and so I wanted to join some kind of like theater program somewhere, but I'd never really heard of anything that sounded interesting. And then one day there was like an open casting call for like the Disney Channel and those kinds of like child star channels, whatever. And I asked my mom if I could go, and she actually said yes this time, which was amazing. And I felt so excited. And I went in, and I did a little whatever they had to do. I think I read some lines, and then I sang for them. And then when it was done, they were like, yeah, we'd love to work with you. Of course, I was like 9 or 10, so I don't really understand how all this stuff works, but they wanted to work with me. But what I ended up finding out is like, we would have to pay, ultimately, like pay for classes, like acting classes and that kind of stuff. And my mom, once she heard that, she was like, no, which in hindsight, that is fair, and it was actually probably a blessing. Actually, I know it was a blessing more than anything else, because I think a lot of us know what's happened to a lot of those child stars, and I, being who I was, even at that age, that environment would have destroyed me. But still, the whole point being, every single time I wanted to do something that I was so passionate and excited about, I was told no. And so then I'd have to settle for something else, which would ultimately fizzle out. And then it just seemed like I was just quitting things left and right. So eventually, I'm sure my parents were just like, look, no, because they didn't understand what was happening. So the realization that ultimately came through today is that I have been called to start doing stuff like this, recording my story and my insights and perspectives, and sharing it with the world. And this is something that I have been building up to on my own for so long. But the reality of right now is like, or what I'm dealing with right now is this, like, being faced with this exact same situation that I was as a child. It's like, for whatever reason, I am being like, the universe is like testing me to see if I'm going to settle again for something less than what I deserve, rather than just kind of like all chips in, doubling down and going for it. And yeah, I guess I just, sorry. This has been kind of difficult to get this one out for some reason. I don't know why exactly, but, even though my parents haven't been like saying, you have to go get a job, but I know that in their mind, based on the reality that they've grown up in, that is the normal, safe thing to do. And so really, like, that purge that was coming through yesterday was like all of these old childhood wounds around being told no, or that pursuing my passions and my dreams was a pipe dream, was not realistic, was not the safe choice. And even that it wasn't what my family wanted. They didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to, they didn't want to do it. And so there was like this battle back and forth in my head, hearing those voices, hearing those like thoughts and beliefs that I have ultimately carried with me up until this point, you know. Um, Trying to, well, and I know they were just trying to be released in essence, but it felt so real, you know, it felt so intense, like I really was being forced to like make this choice and like choose one or the other. Do I go get like a corporate job that pays okay, um or do I double down and go after this and go after what I want and what makes me feel good, you know, and not settling. um and when I had that clarity come through this morning, it motivated me in a way to like to choose what I want for myself, you know. And I'm totally trusting that if there is something else, that like some other avenue I'm supposed to go down at this point in time, that it's going to be made clear to me. But ultimately, I know that this is one of the many things that I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And this whole period has been a really big, like, test of patience and trust, and also choosing myself, choosing my passions, because again, they were denied for so long. Um, and even though I knew, I guess, that this is what I have been wanting to go after and whatnot, I guess. Sorry, my mind, I'm telling you guys, this one's like, it's difficult for me to get this one out. I had it all clearly thought out earlier this morning, and it was flowing so beautifully together. But now that I'm actually trying to like regurgitate it, and this is what happens. When I try to regurgitate that, it's like more difficult and it doesn't always flow. So forgive me, bear with me. I hope it's all making sense. It was a test, and not a test like I was gonna fail it or something like that, you know, because I know this is my destiny. I know this is my path, and I know that the universe would not like allow this not to happen for me in some way. But you know, I really had to face those feelings, and I had to really let them out, because I think I was kind of like trying to like spiritually bypass, but also I thought it was what I was supposed to be doing. You know, it's like, okay, yeah, those are old thoughts. Like every time a thought would pop up, I would be like, okay, old thoughts, past life, whatever, you know, and like just let it go. But there was clearly something here that needed to like get out of my system, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And what was so interesting is that I have been dealing with all that like sinus, like nose, throat, ear stuff lately. And when I was going through that purge yesterday of the crying, it was like all of a sudden everything cleared out, you know. It was wild. And but I guess, you know, I wanted to share this just for whoever might be going through something similar, and as far as purging and like really trying to release these things, and also just not really knowing what the hell is going on with all of this stuff, because it is it can be excruciating. And I guess I just want to remind you that like all of this stuff happens exactly how it's meant to. And even when you have those thoughts that you're like, I shouldn't be having that thought, you know, the whole thought about me having a tantrum and like acting like a child, it all actually like, you know, full circle came back around to help me truly understand that that was my inner child, like pissed off and like putting her foot down, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to do that stuff. Like I don't want to do it. I'm tired of having somebody else tell me what I can and cannot do, or what I should or should not do. I'm done with that. I'm done with it, like within myself. I'm done feeling it. I'm done experiencing it. Like that was, so again, it was like, I definitely felt like I was kind of going a little crazy, but then to have this clarity and this understanding of why it was so important for me to have that, to go through that, and to then ultimately have this realization that like, that was my inner child coming out doing what she used to do when she was constantly told no. Because it wasn't even just about the passions and dreams, but I know that that was the main thing. I mean, I literally just felt like I didn't have a say in my life, in what I wanted as a child, you know, like where it really mattered. Um, and that's why, like, when I finally got like my license, that was the first time in my life where I felt like I actually had freedom to choose for myself, you know? And I mean, I've been going ever since then, literally. Nothing was stopping me, um, but I see now why this is all so important to come up at this moment, because, like, you know, I've been purging through past relationships, past jobs, past friendships, past everything, you know. And for me, I'd already like kind of like, yeah, I know that stuff's not right for me, you know. So that was a lot easier for me to just be like, yeah, nope, easy, done, boom. I mean, it still wasn't like easy, but I knew there wasn't as much like, should I, shouldn't I? It was just like, yeah, no. When I really look at it and reflect on it, this is not a match for me. It's not healthy. I'm giving way more than I'm getting back. And honestly, none of us, we're just not in alignment with each other, you know, with this whole ascension process in general. But this one I wasn't fully expecting, because I thought I'd already chosen myself, you know, like I've had those glimmers of days where I was just like so like grounded, balanced, centered, and like confident and certain, like that I was doing the right things and that I was making the right choices. But in order to really fully ascend and to step into this next level, you really do have to let out and let go of all of the old, like lingering residue of fears and energy that have kept you held back, that have, you know, that have held you back. And yeah, sorry, got sidetracked, distracted, but it's just so wild and so beautiful how the universe works, and how every little experience, thought, feeling, emotion, reaction, whatever, is like has a meaning. There's a message there, you know, like even if it doesn't feel good in the moment, there's a reason that it is happening. And if you just allow yourself the opportunity and the time and the grace to just like really sit with it. Well, first of all, let that shit out, okay? You got to let that shit out, because if you keep trying to bypass it or like pretend that it doesn't exist or act like you've already gotten over it, you're really just, you're holding yourself back again. You're doing yourself a disservice. And that's, yeah, you have to let that stuff out. But then you have to allow yourself the opportunity to kind of start piecing the puzzle together as to like what that really means. You have to really dig into that with your own mind and heart, and understand where it's all coming from and why it's important. You know, I mean, like I said, when I was kind of reflecting on this and meditating on it, it was just like, wow, you know. And the universe has ceased to amaze me with how it works in that kind of way. Because yeah, I mean, like I've said in my last videos, I kind of love too how like these videos are really just building off of each other, truly, like how everything's overlapping. You know, I've been made to believe, like most of us, that in order to be safe and to be stable and secure, you have to follow that traditional route of like, you know, getting a job that doesn't really fulfill you, you know, and that actually a lot of times will drain the life and soul out of you. And you just got to do it. And then, you know, side hustle your passions. And don't get me wrong, that is a route. You know what I'm saying? That is a route for some people. And And I actually attempted that, like where I was working and then I was trying to do this stuff on the side. But like the universe just had something else in mind for me, clearly, where, I've done the safe thing. I've done the traditional route. And like it might have been a little fulfilling it might have been fulfilling at one point, but it did not take long for me to realize that like that is not it for me. So there's still a lot to be seen and uncovered, I'm sure. But what I know is that like what came through, what I released yesterday, and then the clarity that came through today is just a really positive, uplifting sign for myself that like I know I'm almost through this whole purge process. Because so far, that's like the deepest purge that I had to go through. That's the one that has literally followed me my entire life and ultimately dictated my decisions my entire life, and I'll say it again, this process of truly trying to heal and ascend into your highest timeline, your highest vibration, your highest frequency, your highest potential, whatever you want to call it. The only way to get there is to drop the dense, heavy weights that we have been carrying, that we may have even thought we'd work through, and you have maybe to some extent, but there's always another layer that has to be uncovered. And that's why I think it was so like irritating to me, because it was like all these things were coming up again, and I was just like, why is this happening again? Like I thought I'd made it clear, like this is what I want. So why am I having to battle these thoughts and battle these energies again? And I know it's all in alignment with this purge, and even with what's going on in the cosmos, and actually even why I was called to move back in with my parents, because this is where it all started. Not in this house specifically, because I'm from Indiana, but this is where it all started, and I have been forced and faced with so many encounters and situations where I've had to like stand my ground and express myself authentically, in the sense of like, I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that something is going to come in, something is going to come through. I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how. I know what I want, and I'm co-creating that with the universe. Of course, I can't really I say this stuff, but they don't really understand it. But that's why I've had to come back here, because if I was in my own space right now, it would have been so easy just to kind of like bypass it, and sometimes for these really deeper situations, sometimes you have to go back to where it all started, back to the beginning, to kind of really feel those energies again, and to really choose, and then to be able to release it. So yeah, I'm kind of, again, so many thoughts running through my head, so many things I want to say, but I really am. I'm having to just trust that whatever I'm saying is going to resonate, and is what I need to say. I started wondering, because I tried recording this like 4 times right before this one, and I was like, well, maybe I'm not supposed to record it, because there's a couple other topics that I have been sitting on for a while that were kind of coming up to me today when I was on a drive somewhere. But I just felt like this one was important, because I wanted people to see the light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going through these deep, dark periods, like, trust that it is all in alignment. If you're truly trying to heal yourself and trying to like overcome and like step into your best self, those periods are necessary. And there will be clarity if you just allow yourself to feel those things, well, let me say this then. Okay, actually, because so yesterday after it all happened, like after the crying and everything stopped, I was like, I guess maybe I'm supposed to, yeah, get a job. So I like got on like LinkedIn and some places and was just like seeing what was out there. And I was just like, okay, yeah, I could probably do that. So I save it and I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I guess I could do that. Save, no, you know, like, but none of it felt good, you know, like none of it felt like right. Um, but I kind of just allowed myself to succumb to that idea. And, you know, later in the evening, I was just really, and again, just not feeling good about any of it. And my mom actually got home and she came to let me know that her and my dad were running out somewhere. But I was like sitting in the dark in my room, which again, I do not do. And normally when I'm going through stuff like this, I don't even like let them know, you know, like, because it's hard to explain. They do their best to understand, but it's hard to really like have them understand exactly where I'm coming from. And also just knowing where their minds are as far as like, you know, playing it safe. And but this time I don't know. There's something in me. I was like, you know what? Let her see this. Let her know what's kind of going on in my head, you know? And I just started crying again. And I was just saying, like, I just feel like I've screwed everything up. I feel like I've been making all the wrong choices and I don't know what to do. And I'm like wondering if I actually do have to get a job and, you know, and do something that I don't want to do, that I know is not for me, not aligned with me, you know? And I knew I was potentially opening myself up to, like, you know, her judgment or criticism or whatever. And, you know, she did her best to console me because, of course, she doesn't want to see me this upset. Even if she doesn't understand what I'm doing, she doesn't want me to feel that way. So she, you know, did her best to like console me. You know, she held my hand and whatever and scratched my back and then was just like, you know, maybe, you know, sometimes that's maybe what we have to do, you know, which of course, you know, sometimes you have to get something or put something out there, like, you know, and then the right thing comes through a couple months later, you know, and, you know, inner child little Katie would have been like, no, you don't get it. But then I just sat there and was like, yeah, okay, yeah, you know, and just like allowed her to say that, allowed myself to just I allowed myself to hear it. And then honestly, that's when I really started to like calm down. And, you know, I was not succumbing to the idea, but I'm like, okay, well, I guess, you know what, if that's what the universe wants for me, then that's what I'm gonna do. So I just started looking for more jobs and kind of making a list of like, okay, well, what would I want to do? And, you know, eventually I was just so exhausted and finally went to sleep. And then that led to me waking up and feeling this sense of calm within me and then having all this clarity and this breakthrough, you know? So, I mean, like I said, I know ultimately what the point of this is. It might have been a little like here, there, everywhere, but I just wanted somebody, I wanted whoever needs to see this to see and understand that like sometimes you do have to like not just let those feelings out, but really feel them and really like accept that that might be the thing. And then allow yourself to even start looking or whatever, you know, whatever the case might be. And trusting that the universe has your back and the universe will provide clarity where clarity is needed. But until you allow yourself to face that stuff and even maybe put yourself in an uncomfortable position, like I did by like talking to my mom about this, you probably won't get that clarity, you know? And then it just continues to like, the cycle just continues to like repeat and the voices and everything gets louder and louder and louder until you finally can just accept what's happening. So yeah, again, not necessarily the most like, it is like, it's positive. It's a positive message, but again, it just requires you to like really allow yourself to go there and go into the depths of like your deepest, darkest fears. You know what I'm saying? And like, everybody's experience is going to be different, you know? And I fully trust that the reason that I have had to go through this stuff, you know, yes, it's part of my karma, but I also know that I'm healing my ancestral line. And that was another kind of clarity moment, was like, this is what my ancestry has been feeling their whole lives. They have had the potential to accomplish amazing things, but given the circumstances and the timeline, you know, the times that they grew up in, like, they were ultimately made to believe that what they wanted was just a fantasy and wasn't realistic, or it wasn't possible and wasn't realistic. And that's what has like kind of perpetuated this cycle, and that is a part of what I am breaking right now, to not succumb to the safe route and the traditional route, and to truly put all of my faith and trust and belief that I'm making the right choices right now in this moment, and that they will pay off in miraculous and magical ways somehow. I don't know. I don't know how, and that's okay. I'm making peace with that, but I know what I want, and I know that the universe wants to give me that. And that is what I just have to continue remembering, and, you know, continue just keeping my focus on that, you know, and trusting that all will be revealed when it's meant to be revealed in the divine right timing. So yeah, I'm gonna end it with that, I guess, and because I don't want to keep rambling. And yeah, so I hope with, again, whatever you might be going through, that this maybe gives you a little bit more hope and a little more courage to really dig into that stuff, you know, because if it's something like truly a childhood wound, it's not going away, and it's deeper than anything else that you've experienced, which is why it's going to feel so strong, and like why it's going to require such a active participation by you in order to actually feel it, clear it, and then be free from it. So hang in there, keep holding on, keep staying strong, okay? And you'll get to the other side.